G'day and welcome, I'm Hammeh and it looks as though we are going to the moon, in Overwatch that is. Horizon Lunar Colony Map looks as though it is finally being teased and on the way. We got an awesome blog late last night with a bunch of lore goodness too, so it's time to have a look at it and analyse it all for lore, story and what it might mean here. The blog and the teaser images shed a little light into the potential fate of the scientists, gorillas that are on the moon, or not, the Horizon Lunar Base, and may, just may, perhaps hint at a new character in the story, or who knows, maybe even a hero that might join us in future. I'll firstly run through a little bit of background of Horizon and what we do know, including a few little changes to the Lijiang Tower map that you might have seen recently. Then we'll go and have a look at the actual teaser image of the moon base, and then last but not least we'll have a little bit of speculation and thinking as to what this could mean for a map and also what might be happening in the story. Okay, let's get stuck in. So, first things first, what do we know about Horizon? Well, we know that it was established as a base for humanity's renewed exploration of space, and that it's been predominantly funded by Lijiang Interstellar, the company that's based in Lijiang Tower. Now, amongst the residents of Horizon were genetically enhanced gorillas, and this program was taking place to try and test the effects of a long habitation in space. We then know Winston's, or our Winston's, origin story. He displayed a lot of rapid development from the gene therapy. Dr. Harold Winston took him under his wing, as we saw in the events of Recall. He taught him lots of different things and inspired him with tales of human ingenuity and, as we know from the Year of the Rooster event, a little bit of historic heroism and fables as well. However, Winston's story tells us that the other gorillas led an uprising, killed the mission scientists and claimed the colony for their own. Winston then took on the name of Dr. Harold Winston. He built a makeshift rocket, escaped to Earth, and then found a home with Overwatch. That, of course, along with what we're about to see now, raises a lot of questions, which I'm going to go through all right at the end here. There are time codes in the description below if you want to skip to a particular section or piece of analysis. Okay, first things first, to the blog. It's Atlas News, of course, and the title, New Details Emerge About Possible Fate of Horizon Lunar Colony. The blog states that new information has been found as to the fate of the program, and Lijiang Interstellar, the company I mentioned, finally released a press conference and said that the colony's databases and monitoring systems are still up and running to this day. While no direct communication has been established with the facility, the company has found interpersonal logs sent days and moments before the base lost contact with Earth, and here are some of the transmissions that Lijiang shared. Note that it's not necessarily all the transmissions that they have. And how did Lijiang actually just suddenly find out that the databases and monitoring systems are still up and running? Sounds a little bit suspicious to me, but who knows? Let's have a think about that at the end when we have a little speculate. Okay, we have kind of two bunches of messages here. The first are between various scientists on the colony talking about a problem with the gorillas and the effect of the genetic therapy. The second is the concern about another subject named Hammond, who appears to be missing, and then also some expressed concerns about the ventilation. So two separate things there that are going on. Let's read through them and I'll explain them through. The first is between a scientist from Nevsky and to Winston, and that's of course to Dr. Harold Winston, we presume, rather than our gorilla friend at this point. The message says, a quick note to let everyone know that I've gone ahead and confined Simon and a few of the other gorillas, the rowdy ones, the usual troublemakers, to their rooms. Now, from this message, some of the gorillas are getting out of hand, no one knows how to sort it out, and the genetic therapy appears to be a part of the problem as well as life on the colony. However, people have actually been hurt by these gorillas. Nguyen has actually been hurt and put in an infirmary by these. Even without the genetic manipulation, the gorillas would be a handful apparently, but they're a serious threat that we have to take seriously. The scientist Nevsky here is pretty concerned, and actually goes out by saying that in an attempt to show we're not playing favourites, he thinks that all gorillas should be confined to quarters as well. So a bit of a big deal there if you're locking down half of these sentient, we presume, test subjects. Next up, we have a message from Flores, who's concerned about the ventilation. Now, this makes a bit more sense with another message that I'm going to group it with. Flores first says, there are strange sounds coming through the vents. When are we going to be able to give it a thorough inspection? I'm fairly attached to having a fully functional supply of oxygen, Flores notes sarcastically. Now, if you match this message up with this message from Zhang that we see, by the way, is anyone else concerned that it's been a week and no one's seen Hammond? And it says, have you seen me? His cage has been empty for a week. I guess it's not a big deal to anyone else. Sarcastically saying, it would be good to have all of our test subjects accounted for. I don't know why we ever thought it was a good idea to have a smaller test subject. I completely regret it. So if you put those two and two together, there's some interesting things here. Now, I'm not going to speculate right now on what Hammond is. I'm going to do that later in this video, but he's in a cage And remember, all of the gorillas are in quarters. We've seen what Winston's quarters look like. They're treated in a slightly more human fashion. So if the gorillas have quarters and Hammond's in a cage, and he's a smaller test subject, what is he? It's an interesting question. But if there are noises in the ventilation system, and we've seen that Flores is concerned about this, then it might suggest perhaps that Hammond's got out and got into the vents. And it's interesting that they actually haven't found Hammond yet, but again, we'll come on to that later. The next message we go back onto on the gorilla thread is Harold Winston's reply to a scientist called Yoshida, saying he agrees that we have to confine gorillas to quarters. There aren't many good options. Earth and sending them to Earth is not a solution, because the first opportunity for that wouldn't be for a long time, whether it's a resupply, a ship from Lijiang, maybe there are regular supply drops from Earth or something similar, in a similar way to the International Space Station right now, of course, in real life, being sent new scientists, new astronauts, and new supplies. It's kind of interesting to see Harold Winston in action, as it were, and a bit of his personality outside of Winston's viewpoint of him. Winston's, of course, sentimental and misses him. Harold Winston still is sympathetic, though. He says that the gorillas are members of the colony like you and I. There's no magic solution to socialising them. We think of them as teenagers, but they're much more than that. This is not just a teenage temper tantrum. Interestingly, he says, we couldn't have predicted such a negative reaction to the gene therapy. So Winston, the gorillas, is presumably a very positive one. Of course, he's very, very brainy and similar, very, very smart. The fact that not all of the gorillas have had the same behavioural changes is curious, though. So what is the behaviour of these others like that can put people in infirmaries? At the very least, I think we should slow down and possibly discontinue their ongoing treatments. Let's discuss this more at our next executive meeting. So, some of the experimenting is clearly not going very well, and there are clearly some quite dangerous gorillas on the colony. The last message we get is from Winston, which is very much a distress call. It says, high priority station emergency. I need help at airlock E35 immediately. Emergency malfunction with the airlock. I need everyone to come at once. Situation is critical. This is not a drill. And after that, I'm guessing it went very, very silent. So there we go. That paints a bit of the picture as to what was going on Horizon. The next thing that we can have a little look at is the teaser image of the Lunar Colony specimen training module that was put on Twitter and also within this blog. Now, a Lijiang spokesperson told Atlas News the connection is unstable to the integrated monitoring systems, but the company is working around the clock to gather new information. Now, a lot of people recently reported on changes on Lijiang Tower. If you have a look in the garden section, you can see some new posters that I'm showing here, kind of showing the satellite and some other things. There's a little visual update there. The interesting one is if you go to the control center piece of the map, you can see, as some people have shown already, some interesting little Horizon Lunar Colony maps or little schematics. So this is presumably Lijiang Interstellar starting to monitor the station just before this blog. Now, of course, Blizzard have teased story happening in maps before. Let's, of course, not forget the changes on Numbani very recently that led to the announce of Orisa, and of course the changes on Hanamura that led to dragons. So there's a lot of form for changes in maps leading to announces of content, story and other things within and outside of the game. Now there's another nice little detail I actually saw. I don't know if people missed this one or not, depending on what other people covered in other videos, but have a look at this desk. Now the photo of Dr. Harold Winston and Winston has been here for quite a while. It originally wasn't here when Lijiang was released, but it was then added a little bit later. Now this monitor screen is new to me. And here we see a kind of map or schematic or a flight plan, as it were, for either maybe a satellite or maybe something between the Earth and the Moon. Now, because this is a flight path that goes around both the Earth and the Moon, I think that Lijiang are planning a new mission. They're planning to send something or someone, or perhaps some people, who knows, us, maybe up there. That screen really looks to me as though someone's planning flight paths to launch something into an orbit, to send that around and then slingshot it towards the Moon, send it around the Moon and bring it back. It's kind of a pretty common sort of Moon flight path for sending things to the Moon by the looks of things. So that's pretty exciting. I love the look of that image. That brings in an additional little bit of extra stuff into it. Let's go and have a look at the actual spoiler image now. So the Horizon Lunar Colony specimen training module. First things first, we can actually see on here points labelled A through F. That's actually, I believe, 6 points on here. Now, just as a gameplay thing, before we go any further, who knows what that could be? Maybe I thought a domination mode where you've got to try and hold multiple points for as long as possible to score points on your objective tracker, perhaps towards a team victory. A new game mode would be awesome. It's much beloved and a favourite mode of many shooters, but remember that recently Jeff in various interviews had said that there were 3 non-standard maps in the pipeline. Well, we've seen those 3 non-standard maps in Necropolis, in Castillo, and Black Forest, and then he said that there were 3 standard maps, ones that would come into the standard map and competitive rotation. So Would a new game mode come straight into rotation? I don't know. I do wonder, therefore, that this might not be a new game mode, and if it's not, then perhaps it's King of the Hill. The E central area in the middle of this map here looks a reasonable bet for a fairly central point where you could actually go and try and hold it against each other. That could well be the cap point. Or who knows, maybe cap points could move around and change. That could be quite fun as well. It could be King of the Hill, but maybe when you cap a point for a certain amount of time, it moves to a different area. Like a moving King of the Hill rather than a straight out domination where there are multiple set points. It would still be a bit of a change, but who knows what this could be game mode wise. Okay, leaping into the lore implications. Now, we have specimen status, tracking, not found on the left-hand side. We also have scientist status as well. Now, we have the names of various specimens, and note that the specimens aren't necessarily all gorillas. It does say specimen training module, but let's not assume they're all gorillas immediately. Now, there are some cool little references in the names here. I spotted a few of these and Googled a few, thanks to Chaos Wolf on Reddit as well, who spotted another few of these too. So Hypatia is Hypatia of Alexandria. Now, Hypatia in history was a Greek mathematician, astronomer, and philosopher. She was the daughter of a noted academic called Theo and lived in Alexandria, 370 to 412 AD or so. The first female mathematician in history, according to some, so a significant figure. Sadly, she was apparently murdered by a mob of Christian zealots. The Great Library of Alexandria was one of the wonders of the ancient world, particularly if you're a civilization player. It was very, very big and significant in terms of the patronage of the Ptolemaic dynasty, and it was a major centre of scholarship. So it's very much an academic name for a gorilla for sure, with a little historical reference. If you're into your Egyptian history, go and check out my Lore of the Egyptian Skins, where I talk about Farah and Ana, and also Zenyatta's Egyptian skins and ancient Egyptian history too. As for other names, well, we have Calvin. Susan Calvin is a key figure in I, Robot. Many of you might have seen the film, but the book was originally by Isaac Asimov. Some classic science fiction there, and she's a chief robo-psychologist. Asimov, of course, is known for his rules and laws of robotics. He also did a great set of books called The Foundation, which I read when I was a kid, and I really recommend, if you haven't read Asimov, go and read him. He's absolutely awesome. Marie, well, Marie Curie, that could certainly be a nod to the famous scientists who did a lot of work with radium. I do like the thought that Hammond could be a reference to John Hammond off of Jurassic Park. There was Ellie Sattler in Jurassic Park as well. And remember that in Jurassic Park, they were kind of tinkering with life and it went a bit wrong. And then the dinosaurs break free. Yeah, I can see a few Jurassic Park parallels, as well as a few Alien parallels, as well as a few Planet of the Apes parallels as to what's going on Horizon. There's a lot of fun to be had here. Now, Dyson, apparently, according to our Reddit friend Chaos Wolf, this could refer to the hypothetical megastructure known as a Dyson sphere, and the mine it was named for called Freeman Dyson. So, like the names that kind of refer to the film The Thing on Eco Point Antarctica of May's fellow scientists, there's some cool references with the names here. Now, if we go and have a look at the specimen status tracker in a bit more detail, we can see that two are missing, or not found, Hammond and Winston. Now we know that Hammond is a smaller specimen who got out of his cage. He wasn't in living quarters, he was in a cage. As for the other specimens, they're all still visible on the map. Now let's assume that people had trackers or something. As far as we know, all the scientists are dead. There are 12 of them here. We see some of them clustered around point B, we see some of them out on the east there, a little cluster around the south, and then a few people spread around the wing, but there are 12 in total. Now if we have a look at the specimens, there are 9 specimens. A couple of them are missing, but there are still 7 specimens marked on the map, and we must assume that these are the ones being tracked, and I would assume that these are all gorillas. Now, where are Hammond and Winston, and why is the observatory marked in red as point E, and why is it kind of specifically highlighted here? Now, we know obviously that our Winston is on Earth at this point, so what has happened to Specimen 8 Hammond? Is he in the observatory? Is that why it's all in red? There's a lot of questions raised by this. Finally, let's go through a few little bits of lore in terms of questions and speculation. So, firstly, why did it take so long for Lijiang Interstellar to realise that these systems were still active? It appears, if they didn't really know anything about it, that they kind of just abandoned this base. If you lose contact with your lunar base that you've invested in, surely you'd send out a team to go and see what happened, unless they were trying to cover something up. And similarly, knowing that these systems have still been going for all this time, did Lijiang just stop looking at the moon? Did they stop trying to monitor it? Did they not send anyone to go and find out what happened? I find that quite unlikely. Who knows? It may not be a big conspiracy or anything like that, no big lunar conspiracy, but it just seems a little bit unusual. Maybe we'll find out what happened and why. Lijiang could have perhaps been embarrassed that this all happened, blamed it on the gorillas, said the experiments went wrong and everyone was dead, and kind of just shut things off. But we know that this is one module. You know, this is a particular training module for these subjects. So there are other modules, there are other things going on the moon apart from this one small little base, or one small part of a base. So one would assume that there's still lunar activity going on. Why did it take so long for Lijiang to have a look at this place? Interesting question. What actually happened to the colony? What was its fate? Now, the last email, or the last message that we saw, was Harold Winston saying that there was a problem with an airlock. So what happened here? Did the guerrillas somehow accidentally remove, or intentionally, all oxygen from the station? Was there an accident? Or did something, let's say Hammond, get into the ventilation? Perhaps Flores' concerns about the ventilation system in his message was Hammond causing problems, this smaller creature running around up there. Maybe Hammond just broke something there by accident instead. Last but not least, what or who is Hammond? Now, he's shown as missing. Did he escape somehow with Winston? Did he piggyback off Winston's makeshift rocket? Does Winston even know what happened to Hammond? Or that Hammond might have followed him? Or did Hammond perhaps perish on the moon or remove his tracker? If he was missing from his cage for a week, then why wasn't he picked up with a tracker? Is he a smaller subject? Is he not being tracked somehow? Is he perhaps too small to track on the systems, which is why they were having a problem finding him? But finally, the very fact that Hammond was missing for a week and he wasn't found shows that either the scientists are having some quite big problems with the guerrillas and their behaviour, and Hammond wasn't being worried about. I would have thought that a test subject being loose on your closed space station would be quite a concern for you. But let's wait and see. A lot of speculation, a lot of headcanon there. Let's wait and find out what happens. Okay, there we go. I know that was pretty long, but I love going through these kind of teasers, these kind of things in a whole bunch of detail. I hope you enjoyed it too. It looks like Horizon is on the way. Now, who knows? We might have a few teasers over the coming weeks. Maybe there'll be a patch that introduces this map, perhaps sometime in the next month or two. It could even be sooner than that. Remember, of course, Arisa's teasers only were over a couple of weeks. Then she was released, so we might not have long to wait for a new map. So, what do you think happened on Horizon, and what is happening there now? It feels like we're going to get sent back up there to find out. What kind of gameplay do you think this map's going to have? I really can't wait to see. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Cheers for tuning in. If you like lore analysis, if you like speculation like this, and a little bit of Overwatch news as well, do throw a subscribe, like, comment if you enjoyed this video, share it. It really, really helps me out. And you can see a bunch more Overwatch lore, voice lines, interaction, analysis, a little bit of speculation too in the playlist below, so do check those out as well. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Hammeh. Hopefully see you soon, and take it easy.